So good morning or afternoon, I should say, everyone. Welcome to this very first What's Up EU talk. I'm very excited about us being here today. It is the Campus Brussels of Maastricht University who is launching this talk series, which we have named What's Up EU, with the aim to inform the Maastricht University community and, of course, the wider academic community about developments in and around EU policy. My name is Mariolina Eliantonio. I am a professor of European and Comparative Administrative Law at the Law Faculty of Maastricht University, and I am also the academic director, together with Paul Stevenson, of Campus Brussels. Some of you in this virtual room today may have been at our beautiful building in Montgomery. So Maastricht University has a campus in Brussels, which we use for teaching and training purposes, as a research hub, but also as an embassy of our university in Brussels. And as Campus Brussels, as I said, we decided to launch this talk series, What's Up EU, and the talks within the series will focus on various and diverse issues which closely affect universities, to encourage our university community to further reflect on how EU policy impacts our organization and also our professional lives. We have today in the virtual room both academic and non-academic staff, as well as several students. So I'm very glad to see this very high and also diverse turnout. To enrich the discussions, we have also invited a number of our university partners from our networks, both in the Netherlands and in the rest of Europe. So we are also very happy to see several of them today in the virtual room. The launch of this talk series is in fact not coincidental, because it comes at a time of both internal and external developments. So on the one hand, we are witnessing increasingly ambitious EU initiatives in education, research, innovation, all matters that are very close to our heart as academics and as employees of various universities across Europe. On the other hand, of course, for our Maastricht University, this is very important because we are strengthening our role as the European University of the Netherlands. So this is an objective to which we as Campus Brussels will be actively contributing. So we will play a leading role in the shaping of Maastricht identity as the European University of the Netherlands, alongside a number of twin or partner initiatives such as EUFE, the European University Alliance that Maastricht University is leading, and of which many members are also represented here today, as well as a number of other strategic Europe-focused initiatives at our university. Also our participation in networks such as Unilion, Jeroen, and so forth, to which many of you today also present belong, is very important in the shaping of Maastricht University's identity as a European university and the European University of the Netherlands. Moving now to today's talk, given the relevance, of course, of gender equality, both in today's society and as a key priority of the European Commission, we decided as Campus Brussels to launch our talk series with a discussion on how gender equality will be shaping Horizon Europe. Which is, of course, as you all know, the upcoming EU funding program, both for research and innovation. And in coordination with Constance Sommerey, Maastricht University Diversity Officer, as well as Raimunde Neves, who is the funding advisor at our School of Business and Economics. We have invited today Ms. Mina Stareva, who is the head of the gender equality sector at the European Commission Directorate General for Research and Innovation. Prior to joining the European Values and Democracy Unit in DG Research and Innovation, Mina worked on developing the European Research Agenda Policy, Research Area Policy, and on various issues linked to international cooperation. She holds a bachelor degree in law from Robert Schuman Strasbourg University, as well as a Master of Arts degree in political sciences from the College of Europe. We are very, very happy to have Mina with us today. Mina will give us today an introduction to gender equality in EU research and innovation, talk us through the soon to be introduced gender equality plans and their requirements for participating in Horizon Europe, and hopefully also tell us a little bit more about upcoming funding opportunities in the field of gender equality. We have agreed that Mina will deliver a presentation of around 25 minutes, and then we will open the floor for questions. And in order to moderate the discussion, I would like to ask all participants to please use the raise hand functions to request the virtual floor. Enough from my side for today, and I leave the word to Mina. Thank you very much again for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Mariolina, for this great introduction, and good afternoon to all. I'm very happy to be with you on a public holiday for the European Commission, and also in a very exceptionally sunny day in Brussels. It's really a pleasure to meet you so numerous here, and congratulations for starting your WhatsApp talks with gender equality. This is also a clear sign of commitment towards gender equality, which, as you introduced, is very much on the top of the agenda of the European Commission. I have prepared several slides, and I would be very happy to guide you through, but what I would be most happy is that we really engage into a discussion, so I would be very happy to listen to your feedback afterwards, after my presentation. So working in a DG Research and Innovation, I should be able to share my screen. Let me see. Yes, maybe. Can you? Yes. Should be fine now. Yes. So you have already introduced gender equality is very high on the European Commission's agenda. It's I would qualify this as a momentum. It's really a momentum towards all actors' commitment towards gender equality. We do have, for the first time ever, a commissioner for equality responsible for mainstreaming the equality within all European Commission policies and programs. On this slide, actually, I just wanted to showcase some of the key initiatives that were adopted last year and that we continue actually to adopt this year. To highlight the moment, it was really a year of action, and so 2021 is extremely important for us, you as stakeholders and us in the Commission, to put all of the initiatives and ambitions that we have listed into motion. One thing that is very important is that the Commission committed for the first time ever and developed an anti-racism action plan, and which is very important also in terms of research and innovation aspects and equality aspects, but also for the first time ever an LGBTQI equality strategy. We will come also with a legislative initiative on gender-based violence, and this is of course very much relevant also to the academic circles, unfortunately. And currently there is a public consultation open, so if you're interested in this topic, I would just invite you to go to the hyperlink I have on this slide and to raise your voice, share your opinion. Of course, this commitment towards gender equality is also very much valid in the field of research and innovation, and it's very much present also in the new European Research Area communication. I say new, but actually it was adopted already last September, where gender equality is one of the key actions in terms of working with member states, universities, research funders, researchers. But let me, I'm pretty much sure that you're familiar with this, but I just want to emphasize that since 2012 already, gender equality and gender mainstream has been on the top of the European research agenda, and we have been working in supporting actually towards three key objectives, mainly gender equality in scientific careers, gender balance in decision making, and the integration of gender dimension in research and innovation content, promoting a common approach, an institutional change approach, implemented through gender equality plans. On the next slide, It's a very charged and colorful slide. The objective of this one is actually to show you the wealth of projects that we have funded actually to support an institutional change through implementation of gender equality plans, but also to support also coordination at the level of all different actors. So we do have projects that with which we support coordination between research funders, coordination between policymakers, creation of a community of practitioners towards implementation of gender equality plans, working on the international area again with key international partners, addressing gender bias in research funding. So we have tried to promote a very complex and complementary approach to work with all research innovation actors, universities being at the core, of course, next to member states. And despite this, the picture, despite this overall, I would say, sense of improvement, the picture is not so positive. So looking at the numbers, mainly coming from our gender equality plans, we do see that they are still persisting in gender inequalities in all European research and innovation systems, in all European countries. There is quite a heterogeneity across countries, and we do see that there is an urgent need to address the persisting structural barriers. So going into the numbers, what we see is that women occupy only 24% of the top academic positions. They are still heavily underrepresented in STEM fields, and women represent less than 10% of patent holders. Looking at the situation in Netherlands, it's pretty much the same, with significant, I would say, need for improvement. So while one would see that at the level of PhD graduates in all fields, there is pretty much a gender balance. When you look into the STEM-specific fields, only 27% of graduates are PhD women graduates. When you look at the overall percentage of researchers, only 25% are women researchers. When you look into the heads of institutions, only 18% of our women institutions are women. So these numbers come from our report in 2018, She Figures, and have been actually also a key driver to support the very important work done at the level of Netherlands to develop your national action plan for greater diversity and inclusion. Going back to my initial slides and persisting barriers, what we also see in terms of urgent need to be addressed is the more and more visible occurrence of gender-based violence, unfortunately happening also in the academic circles. There is also a need to raise more awareness on the need to integrate a gender dimension into research and innovation content in order to increase the excellence and societal relevance of research. And these barriers have been actually the driver for us to come with a more ambitious approach with the European Research Area Communication and with Horizon Europe. We want to change gears. We want to change the status quo. And I must say it's a very exciting moment for us in the Commission, but it's also very burden-wise, it's also a very heavy moment because we have a lot of responsibility coming with ambitious actions, of course. So our commitment is to work towards an inclusive gender equality agenda. And when I say inclusive, it's inclusive at least 3 different levels. So inclusive at the level of considering intersections with our social categories such as ethnicity, age, disability, sexual orientation, etc. Inclusiveness in the way of working more and better with the private and innovation sector, and inclusiveness meaning working with all countries in the EU and associated countries. And for this, we have actually devised an action in the European communication, research area communication, to actually work towards the development of inclusive gender equality plans with universities, with member states, with the private sector, and with all the research and innovation actors involved. Speaking about EU policy, of course, the key actors the key actors responsible for making the change and for introducing structural reforms are member states, and the momentum is there. The member states also, with their council conclusions on the European Research Area adopted in December, they have also raised their voice on the need to have a renewed focus on gender equality, to come with a more stronger and ambitious approach, and to actually also address not only universities and member states, but also to advance measures to ensure that the allocation of funding is not affected by gender bias. So research funding organizations are also at the heart of our reforms. And the presidency of the European Union, the trio presidency, is also very much committed to place gender equality at the heart of their work on research, of their work on, for instance, amending the European Charter and Code for Researchers, or working on researchers' toolkits. So gender equality is very much on the ERA policy agenda. How this is translated in Horizon Europe. So in Horizon Europe, we actually come with a very strong commitment to our gender equality again. So gender equality is a cross-cutting priority, and we have new and strengthened provisions in Horizon Europe. First, the integration of gender dimension into research and innovation becomes a requirement, and I will come to that specifically in 2 or 3 slides later, because it's a huge step forward. We will have specific funding dedicated to gender and intersectional research under Pillar 2, Cluster 2, Culture, Creativity, and Inclusive Society. And this is also very important because it's a change compared to Horizon 2020, and it's also an important message to send to member states and some academic institutions. We will also support policy reforms at national level, structural reforms with link to the higher education transformation agenda, supporting universities to develop more inclusive and modern and efficient strategies to address gender equality and diversity. We will also have new targeted measures to support women innovators under the European Innovation Council. And a few weeks ago, at the occasion of 8th of March, the European Commissioner for Research, Education, and Innovation, Maria Gabriel, announced a brand new initiative to support women-led tech companies through funding and networking and support measures. Last but not least, we have introduced a new eligibility criteria, and I will come to that in one slide. The first work programs for Horizon Europe 2021-2022 will be adopted beginning of May. We do foresee several info days, but also very importantly, our next edition of the European Research and Innovation Days on 23rd and 24th of June will focus on Horizon Europe, new initiatives, new measures, and how Horizon Europe will help implement the policy ambitions of the European Research Area. Coming to the first novelty in Horizon Europe, mainly the introduction of a new eligibility criteria. Apologies for this. So the introduction of a new eligibility criterion. Public bodies, research organizations, and higher education establishment will need to have a gender equality plan in place so that they actually apply for funding under Horizon Europe. And this requirement starts as of 2022. So there is actually one year of transition period. So with the first calls of Horizon Europe. Gender equality plans are, of course, we have worked quite a lot with institutions, with member states, with gender experts, with our projects, and also across different colleagues to come up with a common definition of the gender equality plan. We came with actually 4 building blocks, which we consider to be the minimum, really the minimum to be considered as a gender equality plan, as an eligibility criteria for Horizon Europe. So process-wise, this means that so the 4 building blocks, the gender equality plans need to be a formal document endorsed by the top management and published on the institution's website. There must be dedicated resources for the design, implementation, or monitoring of the gender equality plan. A gender equality plan needs to be evidence-based, and this requires actually collecting and monitoring of sex and gender disaggregated data across all staff categories. And the gender equality plan needs also to consider training and capacity building actions, such as, for instance, tackling unconscious bias among staff, but also among decision makers. So these are the building blocks for which are mandatory for all public entities, universities, and research organizations. Next to those, we actually have come up with also some recommended areas that we also consider that needs to be addressed within each gender equality plan. And these areas are work-life balance in organizational culture, gender balance in decision-making, gender equality in recruitment and career progression, integration of gender dimension into research and teaching content, and of course, last but not least, measures against gender-based violence and including sexual harassment. On this slide, I have put some examples as well as projects working on those topics, knowing that actually the projects that we fund to support an institutional change through gender equality plans, they do address these areas. So there is quite a lot of knowledge and best practices already generated on the what is called GEAR 2, so the gender in education and academic research, or gender equality in academia and research, to hosted on the European Institute for Gender Equality. So you have the hyperlink here. The second novelty for Horizon Europe is the mandatory integration of the gender dimension into research and innovation content. And actually, we do consider that by default, all research and innovation actions should integrate the gender dimension. This is actually now introduced as an evaluation criteria under the excellence criterion. What does it mean? So I assume that you're all familiar, but of course we do consider sex as biological attributes, gender as addressing social cultural norms, identity and relations, and we do actually foster an intersectional approach where we do actually look also for intersections with other categories and identities. Of course, why is this important? It brings an added value of research in terms of excellence, reproducibility, creativity, and new market opportunities. It brings a better and in-depth understanding of all people's needs, behaviors, and attitudes. And of course, it enhances the societal relevance of research and innovation, and for us, it's a matter also of social responsibility. To come up with this, of course, we have worked with excellent experts across Europe under the leadership of Fernando Schillinger from Stanford University and the great rapporteur from actually Associate Professor of Gender Medicine at Maastricht University, Ineke Klinge, to actually develop and prepare for Horizon Europe. So those experts, they have worked into developing new methodologies and evidence-based recommendations on how to address sex and gender in research and innovation content overall, but also topic specific, so that this is also adapted to the Horizon Europe clusters and Horizon Europe work programs. And this has been an extremely valuable resources for us in the European Commission to work with our topic drafters of the Horizon Europe work programs and to make sure that all clusters, they do address prominently gender aspects already at the level of the topic description, so that of course this helps also applicants to Horizon Europe. So we do actually have here you would see all the links because it's extremely valuable information to the different case studies that were developed under this gender innovations report, and one other case study actually developed on addressing the sex and gender in the COVID-19 pandemic, which was not initially foreseen, of course, led by actually, and she's present today, by Sabine Prigione, a very useful case study also published on our website. Coming to the third strengthened provision for gender equality in Horizon Europe. So gender balance is among the award criteria in selection of projects, and we do actually monitor at the level of the reporting of the projects. We do actually now monitor the gender of researchers, and what is very important is that we have introduced a non-binary approach, which is very revolutionary for the European Commission overall. Last but not least, the European Innovation Council, which was officially launched on 18th of March, has set also a target for women-led companies invited to face-to-face interviews within the European Innovation Council Accelerator, for instance. Has also introduced some new specific And targeted measures, I just mentioned the Women Tech You initiative, but there are also other initiatives to support women innovators and women entrepreneurs. And because you're all here, I also wanted to share with you that this edition of the EU Prize for Women Innovators was also launched at the occasion of the official set of the European Innovation Council. So it is open until 13th of June, and I would really invite you to spread the word within your contacts, as we are really looking for breakthrough innovators with impact on society and great inspiring role models, and we all know that there are quite a lot in Europe. So we have up to 30th of June for those women to apply. Now, in terms of use of useful resources, I have 3 slides just for you to mention that whatever what I presented now in terms of new provisions and actions in Horizon Europe are summarized in this gender equality fact sheet, which we have published at the occasion of the International Girls and Women in Science Day. We already, so the funding and tender portal, of course, and we already had one official webinar on how to prepare a successful proposal for Horizon Europe, which is the start of many webinars that we actually will have to accompany the launch of the Horizon Europe and the official publication of the work programs. Of course, the first one addressed already gender equality plans and the eligibility criteria, and there will be a second follow-up seminar on 21st of April, so you can already save the date if you're interested in it, which would address the horizontal aspects in Horizon Europe, and will also focus on the gender dimensions of the integration of gender aspect in research and innovation content. With this, I would prefer to stop here because I think that the most exciting part is the discussion with you. So I will stop sharing my screen to come back to you and to invite you to share your comments.
Thank you very much, Mina. That was really invaluable as a presentation and also information sharing for us. I would directly like to open the floor for questions and remarks. Whom can I give the word? I see that there was a request concerning the slides, which will be circulated indeed, but we do have some time for discussion, so I'm looking forward to all your questions. I see that there is one raised hand, so please, Anke, the floor is yours.
Yeah, first of all, thank you for this very nice presentation. It's very valuable, and I think it's very exciting what's going on. My question is probably rather dull compared to the plans, but what's the deal with the ERC? So for the innovation actions, research and innovation actions, it clearly states that this gender equality plan needs to be in place in 2022, or goals that have a deadline 2022. But for the ERC, it still only says it needs to be there at the stage of grant agreement, which could already be this November. So is that also the same 2022 deadline, or do we already need it this fall potentially?
Indeed, it's very good that you ask this question, because the ERC work program was the first work program which was published before we actually finalized the general agreement, the general annexes with member states. So before we actually finalized the final work programs and general annexes. So upon request from member states, we have introduced actually a clear sentence already in the general annexes for Horizon Europe that the eligibility criteria applies as of 2022. This is also the case of the ERC, but since the work program was actually published before this agreement, so it is not visible in the work program. What practically how this happens is that already as of this 2021 work programs and calls, applicants who have to indicate whether they have in place a gender equality plan or not. It's just that we are not going to consider this as an eligibility criteria, but for us it's important in terms of statistics, so that we know already, and you should also know that once you indicate that your institution as a legal entity you have a gender equality plan, you will not be asked at each application, so this would be valid for all the applications. So for the ERC this would be the case. So even if you don't have even if the institution doesn't have a gender equality plan, this doesn't mean that it's not eligible for the first calls.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Yeah, because we're working on it, but I'm not sure we have it ready in 2020, in November already. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. I see Willem with a raised hand, so the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this very informative presentation. It's not an easy topic, but you did a great job. You referred to gender dimensions, and you said it has several dimensions. And I would like to refer to, in particular, the one to integrate gender in the research and innovation activities within a project. And I can imagine that you are referring to whether the quality of research is that by paying attention to gender aspects, the quality of the research and innovation will be higher. So my question is, will gender aspects be reflected in the excellence criteria of a project?
Yes, I do realize that probably I speak quite fast. So indeed, basically we do consider that the research innovation actions, so the content of a research innovation action does affect women and men may affect women and men differently. So each project should have to actually reflect on that, and already at the level of application, prepare some sort of analysis on how this project may affect women or men, girls or boys, female or male differently. This doesn't mean that this would happen, but that the reflection should be made. And this is part of the evaluation criteria within the excellence criteria. So it is part of the excellence criteria. Even though we actually, from our side, we wanted also to include it as part of the impact criteria. But for us, it's important that it's within the excellence criteria of the quality of research, as you have referred to.
Yes. It would be very helpful when this was also indicated in the definition of excellence as a selection criteria.
It is, and it is indicated already at the level of the work program, at the level of the submission template, project proposal, sorry, and submission template. So these are areas, these are elements that we have described, and this is really actually again thanks to the experts that have worked on this gendered innovations report to help us define best how to address gender, the gender dimension into the different areas of research and innovation.
I see that there is one question on the chat, Mina, that concerns just a repetition of the eligibility criteria for Kathleen. Maybe you can respond to this, and then I give the floor to Margrethe.
Okay, we should have it as a mantra now for us, the eligibility criteria. But indeed, so first, who is concerned by the eligibility criteria? Public entities, research organizations, public or private, higher education institutions, public or private. So these are the entities from European countries and associated countries. Now, what are the eligibility criteria? What does it mean? It means that each institution needs to have a gender equality plan. This doesn't mean that this should be a single document. So we are actually very open to consider different inclusion or diversity strategies or HR award, for instance, if these strategies do address the 4 building blocks, which are having a public document. So there needs to be public information on this, where actually the top management, we clearly can see the commitment of the top management. There needs to be dedicated resources, so a quality officers, funding, huge office sector like the gender sector in the DG Research Innovation. These plans need to be evidence-based, so sex and gender disaggregated data needs to be collected and monitored. And this plan needs to consider different sort of capacity or training activities. So we give some examples and some indications on what kind of activities this could be in terms of webinar, workshops, working groups set in place, etc. So these are the 4 building blocks. And then we have recommended areas, and this you can see also in the slides that will be circulated after the meeting.
Margriet, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm calling from Wageningen University, and I'm glad to meet you again. And I had another question about actually the procedures around the selection, because we hear that sometimes gender expert participates in evaluation of proposals, and then they say, well, that's not so nicely done, but because they're only one of the group, they mostly are put out in the overall evaluation. Did you think about how to respond to that? And another question is also, I know you have a lack of gender experts for evaluation committees. Is there any companion program to raise expertise in gender for research expertise? Thank you.
Thank you, Margaret, and great to see you. There are several elements here. First element is the need to train experts, the need to train evaluation experts on what does it mean. So on what does it mean, the different gender equality aspects to be addressed in a proposal. So not only on the integration of gender dimension, but also on gender balance and at different stage of staff categories, etc. So there is the burden is on us. And again, we are developing training models for applicants and for evaluation experts. We do lack gender experts, but we do have an open, we do have a database for evaluators. So this is only a plea for you, do apply as experts to be part of Horizon Europe evaluation experts. So indeed, and I think that we will need to raise also, I think what you, Margaret, just highlight is that there is also probably a need from the European Commission to highlight the need to have more gender experts within the evaluator. So maybe we would need to come with some sort of a social media campaign or some sort of really an action, a call for we want you as gender experts, please join our evaluators. So
yeah, great. Good. Thank you.
Thank you. Raimunde.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Mina, for a really nice presentation. I have a question with respect to this more or less transition period until the gender equality plan is like a criterion as of next year. And I was just wondering, it is not a criterion in the first year, not to be evaluated. But in the past, for proposals that had an ex-aequo status, that were equal, basically, elements like gender, sometimes widening, would play a role in the final decision. Has that changed for this year? Will the gender equality plan, although not mandatory, not to be evaluated, could that still play a role for ex-aequo proposals?
Okay, again, excellent question. Thank you very much. There are 2 issues here. The gender equality plan is at the level of the institution. It's not at the level of the project. So we would not actually look into the project. I mean, we would not look, we will not evaluate the projects against whether they have institutions have a gender equality plan or not. So an institution can apply if they have a gender equality plan, but it's really linked to the legal entity. But the ex-aequo criteria, which is having a gender balance among all staff categories within your proposal, does apply, and it's actually more prominently featured compared to Horizon 2020, because now it comes at the second stage. So it comes after the SME legal status, and before the geographical balance. So it comes at the second place. So indeed, the 2 are important, and we do actually in the work programs we do actually encourage projects to consider gender balance at all staff categories, and this is also the level of the model grant agreement, of course, for proposals.
Okay, thank you. That's very clear. Maybe a small different question still. You have already outlined the criteria for the gender equality plan, and they are very, very clear, very structured. and I was just wondering, will you be providing some examples maybe in the near future of like best practices or you know, good cases that might be helpful for participants?
So indeed, something that I didn't mention is that our, when I say that we have huge responsibility, it comes at least two stages. One is to actually make future applicants fully aware about these new criteria, but then is to make applicants prepared for this new era, starting with the Horizon Europe. So we have put in place, we have managed to mobilize some additional funding in the last year of Horizon 2020 to set in place a pilot action to set a gender equality knowledge and support facility, where now we have mobilized experts. It just started, actually. It started on the 15th of March. The objective is to mobilize experts across countries to provide specific trainings to universities to build capacity on gender equality plans, but also, so they will develop some specific guidelines on the different gender equality plans building block and suggested thematic areas with very clear examples for each building block, looking into the different type of factors. So university, research funders, member states, municipality, etc. And what is also very important is that on one of the slides, I have a link towards the GEAR tool. So the GEAR tool has been something that we set already as of 2016, I think, with the aim to provide a step-by-step guidance for universities on how to set up gender equality plan, how to monitor a gender equality plan, and how to sustain a gender equality plan. So there we have updated this GEAR tool last year, at the end of last year, and it provides a huge information coming from projects that have developed different tools, materials, guidance, whatsoever on the different aspects of the gender equality plans. And last but not least, what I didn't mention neither, is that actually the pilot facility for setting in place a gender equality knowledge center will be working very closely with the European Universities Alliance. Actually, they will be our test bed for expanding our actions, and we plan to organize several webinars with the European University Alliances and with institutions with less advanced experience in gender equality.
That sounds very nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Joep.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you also to you, Mina, for joining this group on a day off. That's I think also very appreciated. I had one question, just a follow-up question on the gender balance, which you were already talking about. You already said it applies to all the different staff categories, that there has to be balance in each of the categories of the proposal. I was wondering, when is a staff category balanced enough? So that what percentage threshold are you thinking of to consider a proposal balance? Is that 40%? Is it 50%?
Great question. So for Horizon 2020, and actually until the von der Leyen Commission, gender balance for us was 40-60%. With the ambition of the new commission, we look into 50-50. But this doesn't mean that this needs to be the case for all the projects. On the contrary, what we ask the project is to look for that. It's a best effort obligation. So we ask the projects to really look for gender balance, but that if they cannot achieve the gender balance, inform us why is this the case. So it's a matter of reflection, so that the consortium is absolutely conscious on the need to respect the gender balance. This doesn't mean that we will look for 50-50.
Thank you. All the complicated questions you are getting today, Mina. Sabine, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Well, thanks a lot for the presentation, the updates of where you're standing and where we're going. I had a specific question about the action you were mentioning about intersectionality that should come up. So I was wondering in how far that's more of a, let's say, a method development goal, or if it's more an integration. So is there anything already known about what that's going to be, or what that will mean for us?
What is a cross-cutting objective in Horizon Europe is gender equality and inclusiveness, precisely at the request of Netherlands to include diversity and inclusive aspects. But still, the mandatory integration is of gender dimension. So for the time being, of course, we do focus on sex and gender aspects, and which is the mandatory, but we do recommend that they also consider an intersectional approach, and we have actually provided a very detailed guidance building on the gender innovations methodology for intersectionality. So this is something on which we don't have so much experience. It's absolutely new in the Commission, and our objective is to develop better understanding on how to address these, both at the level of research as a method, but also at the level of the policy and at the level of the support we give to, we would like to give to our policy actors and key research innovation actors. So this is very much on our agenda and ambition to do, but it's not for the time being. There is not so much except Sabine, the work from Gender Innovations on towards intersectionality and our recent efforts actually to develop a better understanding. And we will have also specific funding in Horizon Europe to help us address these aspects, so to help us address gender and intersectional research.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much.
We continue with Helke. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to ask one question. So, Mina, you just explained that you're looking for gender experts who are engaged in evaluating the gender aspects and expertise in the research proposals. And so I'm just interested, so you said that everyone could apply to be a gender expert. So what are the criterions for these experts?
Here we speak about our evaluation database. So with my presentation, I will add specifically the link towards it's a call for application to experts to actually become our evaluators. So of course, becoming an evaluator into specific field. It could be in the field of social sciences and humanities, but it could be in the field of artificial intelligence, manufacturing, etc. So it's up to your expertise, and the gender expertise it's a plus, it's the added value. And because when we look for experts, and I must say that I don't have so much experience in the practical modalities of evaluation, but when we look for experts, we look also by thematic expertise, but also by keywords. So it's you will see, I will send you the link, so and you're really invited to apply.
Okay.
To join our database.
Yes, okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Anke had a second question.
Yes, I do. So as I said, I think it's very exciting what you're doing here, and because I'm an advisor, a grants advisor, so I work with lots of different scientists, and this question always causes them a lot of trouble. They say there's no gender dimension, even though it's super obvious. For example, they're making a wearable device, and they don't consider that male and female bodies are different. So I think it's super exciting, but I also noticed that for them it's really hard to make this analysis, and so it's really important that the researchers start thinking about this, but also that they don't know how. So I was wondering if there's any resource, or if you're planning to make any like example database or something of how projects deal with this. So all the different ways in which you can think of this dimension, because I'm not an expert on gender issues either. It's just common sense maybe that I try to bring in, but yeah, lots of projects have done this, of course, and I was wondering if there would be any resources on that.
Yes, so there's indeed it is in my presentation, and I will highlight it probably better. It's the report that was developed by the expert group Gendered Innovations, actually, how actually inclusive research leads to better science, to better research. They provide, sorry, actually my computer wants to stop. But so they provide very detailed guidelines on generally how to integrate the gender dimension, but also topic specific. So this is our main updated guidelines. The report was adopted 4th of November last year, and it's actually directly linked to Horizon Europe, our work program. So applicants can have direct access, and I think it's quite visible. Actually, we made it quite visible this time. Also, the ERC had a very interesting seminar on the integration of gender dimension into social sciences last November, I think it was, even 13th of November, I think it was. Again, I will send you also information on this because it's indeed very important. And on the GEAR tool, where we do provide some good practices coming from projects, we also have some very nice examples coming from different projects on the integration of gender dimension into the field of robotics or energy or climate change. So these are indeed very valuable. So your question actually makes me think that I need to change my slides in terms of really put it useful resources by organizing the useful resources by different gender actually objectives.
Yeah, I'm sorry, maybe I also missed it, but this last thing is exactly what I would be very excited about, like examples for robotics, climate change, all those energy. Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I'm taking a note.
Thank you. Fatima, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you. I have a question. It's good that we have to think about gender equality and make plans as an institution. I work for a university in the Netherlands as a coordinator diversity and inclusion. But my question is actually, you can, the organization is system, you can build a system to provide tools and resources to enhance the diversity. But personally, I think it doesn't say anything about the inclusiveness of the organization. Because a diverse organization is not necessarily an inclusive organization. So my question is how is the EU thinking about monitoring that? Because yeah, that's actually my question.
And it's a very difficult question. It's a very difficult question. This is precisely why within the gender equality plans as an eligibility criteria, we didn't include the word inclusiveness, because then we make it extremely difficult for everyone. But it's precisely why in Horizon Europe, we will have three actions actually. One would be to set in place some sort of a think tank, research center on inclusive gender equality policies, which would mean actually gender equality plus strategy. Our aim is not to address inclusiveness separately, but to link it to gender equality and to look into the different aspects and intersections with the different elements and discrimination and grounds of discriminations. It's not very clear how to monitor that because the situation differs from one country to another. And we saw this challenge because with the new editions of the edition of She Figures, which is our pan-European study on monitoring the state of gender equality in research and innovation, we wanted to have a section on intersectionality, and we realized that for the time being, having comparable data and view across country it's a huge challenge, it's not to say impossible. So we will fund this sort of a think tank that should help us to address better, to understand better how to actually support inclusive actions. And again, I say gender equality plus inclusive actions. And we will also support institutions which are willing to address, to go beyond actually the typical gender equality plans, and that are willing to develop such an inclusive gender equality strategy. So we foresee this, and we really want to build a community of, let's say, pioneering universities and pioneering institutions leading on that, as so that we learn from each other. So indeed, here is where we stand, and it's a start.
Thank you.
Thank you. I do not see any further raised hands, so that might be a good chance if you want to ask a final question. It could be now. Or else, I think that this, in fact, this last question, especially Mina's last answer, was with the outlook on the future, and in fact, all the very many challenges ahead, both for us as universities and, of course, for you as Commission. I think it is a very good closure of this talk. And with that, I would like to thank Mina again. We really appreciated you taking the time to be with us today, especially in what turns out to be a public holiday for the Commission. So thank you very much again. I think all the participants really appreciated all the insights that you gave. And to all our audience also, thank you for tuning in today to this first WhatsApp EU talk, and of course stay tuned for the next ones soon. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the Easter break and hopefully some nice weather. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much and goodbye.